The Toyota 4Runner is a weird vehicle. It started life as barely more than a truck and has gone through 5 generations, which have incrementally made it slightly more than barely more than a truck. The current generation, the one I own, started off with relatively low sales numbers, increasing after a few years and staying surprisingly high for the last few years, considering the car is 15 years old. People like these things a lot more now than before. Kelley Blue Book says my 4Runner is worth almost as much as I paid for it 5 years and 50,000 miles ago, which is bananas, and only true if the prospective buyer has never watched any of my YouTube content. It's hard to explain why people love the 4Runners. I've owned 2, and it's hard to say exactly why. It's reliable in the midst of some pretty stupid shenanigans. That's part of it for sure. It has great visibility. It's comfortable. It'll haul things and stuff. You can live in it. It does what I need it to do, which is sometimes towing, sometimes camping, sometimes crawling over rocks, and sometimes driving down to San Diego to see the new 4Runner. Toyota invited me out to one of their press events, fed me excellent food, and put me up in a nice hotel so that I would say nice things about the new 4Runner. But joke's on them, because I was going to say nice things anyway. Well, here it is. After 40 years of the 4Runner and 15 years of the current generation, we have the new Toyota 4Runner. Not very different from the previous 4Runner, not substantially different from any of the ones that came before it, save maybe the first one, which was basically just a truck. And that is a good thing. People like the 4Runner, and part of the reason they like it is because it is simple and predictable. It's still a body-on-frame, still has that solid rear axle, the back window still rolls down. It's actually similar in more ways than I was expecting. It's almost exactly the same size. The rear seat is decent, but not amazing. The rear opening is 4 feet wide, but if you slide a 4x8 sheet of plywood in the back, you have to rest it on top of the wheel arches. I say it's similar, but in reality, it's entirely different. It looks similar, it feels similar, it has the same personality as the 5th Gen 4Runner, but every single part is new. It's on the TNGA-F platform that Toyota uses on all its body-on-frame vehicles. It was suggested to me by one of the engineers that it may be possible to take suspension from a Tundra and stick it on a 4Runner so you can get that long travel, wide stance suspension from a junkyard. It has a turbo 4-cylinder making 278 horsepower, or 326 if you get the hybrid. It has an 8-speed transmission, and the tow rating is increased to 6,000 pounds. This will all sound very similar if you've looked at the specs of the new Tacoma. They share a powertrain, and the frames are very similar with some small differences in length and reinforcements. The 5th Gen is on a different platform entirely, but they're back together again. The interiors are the same. In fact, they might be using the same doors on some trims, and I bet the instrument panel is exactly the same. It looks great all around, but it does have the dorky chin spoiler that the Tacoma has. It doesn't come on the TRD trims, and it is removable, but apparently it's worth half a mile per gallon or more in certain situations. It's actually there for road load. It does more for emissions than fuel mileage, but it does help both. And it can be removed pretty easily by taking out 9 fasteners. There are a few things that are pretty different from the old 4Runner, like this gigantic screen stuck on the dash. I hope it's not expensive, because I'm definitely going to hit the brakes too hard and slide a 2x4 right into the center of it. The rear seats don't fold flat, they flip forward, which is kind of annoying. I liked the old seats that had the lower cushions that flipped up and the seat backs that folded down. My 4Runner has an electric brake booster, and the new hybrid ones have a similar one, but interestingly, the non-hybrid went back to the regular old vacuum booster. The windshield is raked back a lot more than the outgoing 4Runner, which gives a little less of an aggressive look, but that's fine because it's probably worth a decent amount of fuel mileage. This is good because my 2 biggest complaints about my 4Runner are the low power and terrible fuel mileage. The new ones should do well at fixing those problems with the turbo 4-cylinder, 8-speed transmission, and optional hybrid powertrain. If I get a new 4Runner, and I might, I will probably go for the hybrid version. It's worth almost 50 extra horsepower, so it's like adding a supercharger that also improves your fuel mileage. The battery goes in the back. On the non-hybrid models, the floor is low. The hybrids have this bump in the back with the storage in front and back of it. In the middle is a 1.87 kilowatt hour battery. It's a nickel metal hydride battery, which Toyota really likes for their hybrids. The new one has an optional front sway bar disconnect. It droops pretty low, and I hope it's also not expensive because I'm definitely going to high center this thing on a rock directly at this point. Based on the Tacoma, I'm guessing it will be at least as off-road capable as the outgoing model, probably more so with the TRD trims. The TRD Pro comes with the same Fox shocks that the Tacoma has, which have internal hydraulic bump stops and also internal bypass. The 4-wheel drive system has a Torsen limited slip in the center and available locker in the rear. However, they did get rid of that big lever that people used to enjoy in the off-road trims. It's now just a switch, which is fine. Like the Tacoma, the 4Runner has a Trailhunter trim. The addition of the Trailhunter allowed Toyota to move the TRD Pro trim to more of a desert runner. The Trail Hunter is the overlanding trim, and the TRD Pro is for blasting through sand washes. I suspect some people like the current 4Runner because it is old. Cars have gotten unnecessarily complicated. Somehow the simplicity that companies have tried to add has just added complexity. Toyota knows that using a touchscreen to change the AC vents is not added value. Complex four-wheel drive systems with clutch motors and sensors does not make off-roading better. The 5th Gen 4Runner is a truck, a simple, reliable, body-on-frame vehicle that does what it's supposed to do all the time and nothing else. And Toyota is admittedly getting away from that a little bit with the complexity of a turbocharger, a hybrid powertrain, and a movie screen on the dash. But I don't think it's going to cost them sales. I think they're going to do just fine. Toyota has been mass-producing hybrid cars longer than anybody, and I have no doubt they can make a turbocharged engine that lasts 250,000 miles. I don't think people want overly simple vehicles. They don't want tractors. They just want it to be good. People want comfort and fuel economy and towing capacity, and if the car has driver assistance that makes highway gridlock a little easier, then that's awesome. You know what? I don't actually know what people want, and I don't care. I think there's more truth in saying who I am and what I want than there is in most of the automotive journalism out there. What do I want? I want a reliable, comfortable off-road vehicle with a rear window that rolls down so I can shove 2x4s in through the back that will eventually slide into my touchscreen when I hit the brakes too hard. I will have a better video for this in a few months when they let me drive this thing, and a video about the new Land Cruiser, which is excellent. Toyota is killing it with the SUVs and trucks. Chances are good that I will be buying one of these vehicles in the next couple of years. Which one? I don't know. Probably whichever one I can get without an absurd dealer markup.